Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a little bit of work on an Amilcar CycleKart that somebody else built. Chris Kaufman built this and did a great job, but we had a few modifications made to it that we need to do some adjustments on. Mark Parnell at Renegade CycleKarts in Oklahoma built a new spindle setup for this to include Ackerman and KPI, Kingpin Inclination, which is what I've done on all my carts. Really helps them handle well. But he had a limited time to get this done in time for the Wilcox race, and as a result, a few little things need to be fixed. First, we fixed the brakes, got that done. We built a new grill for it. We've got a video coming out on that, maybe it's already out. Built a new aluminum grill, so that turned out pretty well. And now we're going to fix the steering. Right now we've got a situation where these new spindles, they are basically using the architecture from VKC, which is a bigger C-channel down here. How much bigger this is, and our normal one is about 2.5 inches, so this is much taller. And so the geometry is a little different. So I think what I'm dealing with here, I've got some touching where this arm is touching the C-channel. Pull it in, it touches there before you get to the full travel. Also, we're not taking advantage of our Ackerman. This is not, so I'm going to shorten these up to get the Ackerman. I'll probably do that first, and then I'm going to work on notching these so you get full travel. So if you can show it here real quick. Show on the steering, you'll see that the pitman arms are not going through their full travel. That's fully to that one direction. It's only a little bit, so it's binding up in there. A little more on that direction, a little less on this direction. So we're touching already. So clearancing those will fix that problem, I believe. So we will get to cracking on this thing. So yeah, good stuff. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tie rods off. I'll take the wheels off first. I'm going to get up on the gas stands to get the wheels off of it. So this cart has 3/4 inch spindles on it. Your cart might have 5/8, so it would be a different bolt or a different wrench, but this is an 1 inch and a 1/16. Get these spindles off of here, or the wheels off the spindles. So, not a terribly complicated operation. Before I do that, you know what? I'm going to take a measurement real quick. Now I'm curious about something. These things are pretty wide. Let's see how wide we are. Okay, so we're about 41 inches where it touches the ground. This is about 2 inches wider than what's recommended, so I might shorten this spacer up, bring the wheels in a little closer. That'll help the turn radius as well. Right now it's pretty wide, so we'll modify a few things on this thing, get it turning really good next. Okay. You can see there's a little spacer here that Mark makes, which is great. I almost wonder if we can omit that. Let me see something here. What you want is your bearing surface here to ride on that, not the bearing itself, but that little bearing surface. So let me see if that lines up. Maybe we don't need that spacer. I omitted it on the Aston Martin. I put it on the outside instead of the inside. Yeah, that'll work. We don't need the spacer. I can put the spacer on the outside. So there'll be fewer threads. I think that'll work. Yeah, maybe that's what we'll do. That'll solve that problem a little bit. That'll increase your turning radius also because it's closer in now. So, alright. One last thing. Tight fit there. There you go. And, yeah, okay. Another thing too important is if you build your own cart or if you buy one from somebody, there should be a spacer inside here. So in between the bearings there's a spacer. Again, taking the pressure and putting it on this race surface, not on the actual bearing. Put it on the race surface, so there's a tubing or a piece of pipe in there. Goes all the way through both sides so it doesn't crush. Okay, here we go. Get the other side off. So I think the next thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and shorten these tie rods up. I'll get those off the cart. These are going to be 1/2 inch nuts and bolts. And on here, he's already got a little spacer. There's a spacer in here, probably to keep it from binding up. What sometimes happens is these tie rods or rod ends, whatever you call them, bind against a flat surface. So you elevate them a little bit with a little piece of tubing. On my cart, I choose a nut and ground it down, so that works too. All right. We'll get these off of here. There's the other side. So I just got these off. These are the ones that are on the pitman arms. Looks like he welded them right on the cart. So there's some weld splatter on here. These are binding up really bad inside. So I'm gonna have to clean these up a little bit. I notice this one's bent. So let's recondition these a little bit. See if we can improve this geometry. So there's some junk caught in here. What is that? Let's make it a pick to pick that out of there. This one's not working very well. What in the hell this is in here? It's really hard. See it moving a little bit. Almost wonder if some sort of lubricant that got burned up in there. Okay, so I took these apart and I greased them. There's still a little bit of tension in these. This is a little stiffer than it should be. I'm not sure if these things got bent because they were over tightened or what's going on, but I put some axle grease in there, soften them up a little bit. These were just exactly the right length previously. They were bottomed out inside this. So what I mean by bottomed out is this thread were all the way into there to where it can't go any further. So if you look at this, take this apart real quick. You can only go in so far on these. The threads end inside this little fixture at some point, so you don't need to go all the way in. If you go all the way in, you don't have any adjustments. So what I did is I'm going to mark, because I know that the Ackerman is about a ½ inch from where the other one was at, so I'm moving it a ½ inch down for the threads. And I'm adding another /4 inch because this one did not have a lock nut on it. It should have this little lock nut. So I'm going to thread this down. I've got my Craftsman. This is a 5/16 by 24 pitch. And so if you're going to buy tools, get the Craftsman for this type of tool because it does work really well. And you're going to want to use some cutting lube or cutting fluid. It makes it a whole lot easier. So I'm just going to put this in my vise. I've got my marks up so I can see them. Put a little cutting lube because it will kind of recut these threads a little bit as it goes. Helps it cut a lot better. So if you've never done it before, you're going to take the side that's got the it's got a little bit of a wedge, or almost like the threads aren't quite there all the way to the end. So that's the starting side. The other side has got threads all the way to the end. So that's the side that is the back side basically. So you start here. If this has already got threads on it, it's pretty easy. If this was a fresh new rod, you'd have to work it a little bit and maybe chamfer the edge to get it in there. But as you go in, you're just going to kind of go slow. Back and forth, you'll feel it cut. So it is cutting these threads a little bit, it's cleaning them out, so it'll thread a whole lot easier next time that you put it back in that part. But when bolts come from the factory, they've got coating inside those threads sometimes, and it's not really ideal. So a lot of machinists will actually do this before they put any bolts in anything. They'll clean the threads, nuts, bolts, anything like that. So I'm just going to work that all the way down until I start getting the cutting surface. It's a surprising amount of tension even though things already threaded. When I get to the cutting surface, I'll put more lube on it, keep it from getting too hot. Getting close now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this lubricant right on the rod there. As I get in there, it'll help it cut, make it a lot easier. Getting close to some cutting now. Feel it cutting. You'll start seeing little bits of material coming up on the business end of the tool there. So I'm backing it off a little bit, and it helps clear the debris out of the way. as I go. You can hear it. Little clicks. Some of that's my workbench clicking in the background, but or squeaking. Having a vise hold this in place makes it a whole lot easier. See, I'm almost to that 1/2 inch mark now. I'm going to go past that. This is also the one that had a little bend in it, so we're going to cut off the absolute end of this thing. Maybe 5/8 of an inch I'm going to cut off to shorten it because it doesn't bottom out anymore. Give still enough room to adjust it. I'm going to cut past that mark because you can't thread all the way to the mark. The threads kind of have a bit of slope to them, I guess you would say, so the nut won't even go past it. So you can see I already cut that thread off. See, that mark is still there? So I'm going to go past the mark to make sure I got plenty of thread for the lock nut. Or jam nut, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't hurt to have more threads on here, but it's not a good idea not to have enough. Okay, that's probably good. So I added about a little more than 3/4 inch of threads, slightly more probably. And I'm going to cut off a 1/2 inch. Oh, before I take the tool all the way off the thread, I'm going to cut off that 1/2 inch real quick. Put that back up. You leave this on here, you use your cutoff wheel, and then as you remove the tool, you're going to fix your thread. So I'm going to cut off, I want to mark about a little more than a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go about 5/8 of an inch. I'm going to mark it right here. That's how much I'm going to cut off, which is about, should be about what I cut off on the last one. Yeah, almost exactly. So that's pretty close. Okay, we might have to cut more later, but for now, that's where we'll start. So, cutting time. Hot little dude. Take your file and kind of knock off that little edge there. And as I bring the tool across it, it'll repair those threads so that your nuts and stuff will go back on easily without too much drama. If you cut it and then try to do that, then you'd have to run this thing back through it again. So might as well just do it all at one time. So let's see. Thread's on easy enough. Let's see what it bottoms out at. Okay, right about there. Let's see if we're about the same length as this other one. Pretty darn close. Yep. So I'll go to the store and get another one of these little nuts, but for now, we can work on getting this thing aligned, and I've got some more work to do on it. But that was step one. We had to get this, shorten these up so the Ackerman would be improved. So let's get these back on the car and see what we get. Okay, so I've shortened the pitman arms, and I have notched two places. I've notched on the arm and on the bracket, and I still don't have enough travel. I've got that, I don't know, 1/4 inch notch in there, and we're still probably, if I'm honest, I probably have to notch it almost all the way through to get this to work. And I think the reason that we're having trouble, when this arm was made, normally it would be this straight out this way, like an Azusa arm would be straight, parallel to the frame, and then you'd be 1 inch over where your connection point would be. But this whole thing is cocked over an inch maybe, so actually quite a bit. So if I were to put a straight edge across here, so the original bolt would be here, and the new bolt would be about where that one is at. Problem is, this whole arm is cocked, I don't know, 25 degrees. So I think the only solution I can come up with is cut these off and start them on straight, and then adjust the pitman arm from there, because we're never going to get enough travel to get a full arc of travel at the pitman arms inside the car. And so as a consequence, you'll never be, this is as far to the right as it'll go, or actually left, and that's as far left. So it's got a nice left turn, but on the right side, almost nothing. And that's not right. So the only way to get this to steer is I'm going to have to cut these off and weld them in the right location. So I guess that's what I'm going to do next. So there you go. Moving on. Okay, so I cut the first arm off. I left the other arm on so I could help to line it up. I kind of set up this fixture. I just did a little piece of scrap metal. Keep the arms straight, and so that both arms would be the same angles, because you want these arms parallel with the axle. Okay, because this has got the KPI in it, nothing's square on it. It's got an angle, 14-degree angle on it. So basically what I did was I took my center line of the axle barrel, marked it on this piece of metal, and then moved over 1 inch. And that's where I located this hole. So it's offset by 1 inch. So it's got a lot less angle. See how much less angle there is from here to this one? So that should give us our clearance we need on the cart. So I just tacked this in place. I want to put it on the cart now and make sure we have less bind and more travel. So I'll go ahead and take this off now, and then I'll just recreate this exact same procedure for the other side once I make sure that this works. If I need to adjust it more or make a new arm, we can do that at that. Anyway, so take this out of the thing, and it's probably still hot, so I just got a little tack on here right now on the top there, and I'll finish welding it later. So I can already tell there's a lot less angle in that, so I'm going to leave that on there just in case I need to adjust it. But let's quickly put this on the cart and see where we are. Like I said, this is hot, so I'm trying not to burn my hand here. Get that bushing back in here. Okay. So if you're building your own axles, it's just, you know, trial and error. Sometimes it takes to get these things right. Even if you're buying one from Mark, I mean, if you're buying a thing from his, your cart might be slightly different than the way he's building them. So he's building them with pretty good intentions and good geometry. Just in this case, the cart is fighting us a little bit just because of the way it's built. So, at any rate, let's see here what we got. What's going on? Why is that not going on? Cut. Alright, so we're getting some test runs in it after fixing that front suspension. And if you're watching the video, saw we needed the sidewalk to turn around. Now it's turning around. Less space than the street requires. So that's actually better even than my other cars. That's pretty good. That's a successful operation there. So we got it turning really well. It's not interfering anymore or binding. I clearanced a few other little things on it to make it turn better. Sorry, I can't really see the camera. Sunlight's really bad. Here it goes. Alright, so this cart again was built by Chris Kaufman, and nothing wrong with it. It just needed, after those repairs that Mark did, we needed to fine tune some things, which is what we did. So. And that's not uncommon. Every cycle cart's a little different, even if somebody factory built the cart. You might have to make them fit your cart, so a little modification sometimes required. So brakes are working fantastic now, and yeah, we're going to call that a success. Awesome sauce. Pretty good. super happy with that. So changing the angle of those arms on there made all the difference. Give us the clearance we needed. Also, I had a little bit of interference on the pitman arms where they're welded to the steering shaft. There were some pretty thick welds. It was just friction interfering with the weldment that's in there, so I took that apart, ground it down, and reinstalled the bushings and stuff inside the steering column. So this is no longer has any play in it. Steers super nice, goes straight, which is what we wanted. So mission accomplished on those mods. I think this is going to work out pretty good. So thanks guys for watching. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And get out there in the garage and build something cool. See you next time.